intriguing character, and we don't want to spoil too much, I don't think.
No,
So, how did you approach playing this sort of duplicitous, say, character?
Yeah, character with many secrets. She's elusive and she's really interesting, and it was quite a challenge to bring subtext in when you're not on camera, because I think I didn't realize how much you act with your, silence when you're on camera, especially if you're being duplicitous or you have ulterior motives. When you're on audio, there's a lot I had to work out in terms of, taking pauses, using different volume of voice to make sure that, like, a listener who came back and wondered what I meant before would be able to tell that I had ulterior motives or something like that, but also playing it straight enough that there were no spoilers.
Right. No raised eyebrows. So.
Exactly.
Were you a Sherlock Holmes? I mean, Sherlock Holmes' as many character has been around for 100 plus years. How big of a Sherlock Holmes fan were you? And what was your reaction the first time that you read this script and saw the twist of the characters that are against type?
Definitely. So I said this in the panel, but I feel like I grew up in the era of like Sherlock remixes, right? Everything was a new adaptation, a different person playing Sherlock, a different take on Sherlock that was kind of like modernizing what we knew. But I'm also a huge reader, so while I loved Sherlock on the BBC, I loved Benedict Cumberbatch, right? I went back and tried to read a lot of it when I was in a classics phase, and I didn't get through all of it because I think it's like 56 short stories, 4 novels. Like, it's a lot, but I loved what I read. And then the second part of your question being when I read the script, it was really interesting because I think on the surface, I didn't know where it was going, right? So on the surface, I saw this character that was sort of opening up Moriarty, helping understand his emotional journey, and I slowly got sucked into the fact that she's so much more than that, and it made me so excited because you see characters, a lot of the time female characters are sometimes just, one note. They are like helping, I don't know, give detail, give color to a male character, but she does so much more, and she has so much more agency in this plot. It was awesome to read.
What was your favorite part about playing her? Because I think you kind of answered the question there about agency.
Yeah.
That's definitely, we saw that early on too.
Oh gosh, I mean, there are so many things I could point to. I think play, like, how do I say things without spoiling anything? I think playing the duality of her was such an incredible acting challenge. That was a blast. I think I'm a singer, and being able to do opera, like, I did opera in high school, I did opera a little bit in college, and being able to go back to that was just an incredible gift, because that's not something you usually get to do. I felt like I was using all parts of my skill set.
So was you singing?
Yeah, it was me singing.
Awesome. Amazing.
And it was such a great opportunity. I missed opera, especially in the pandemic. Live theater, opera were really hard to come by, and being able to do that while also doing this incredible audio genre was really cool.
Could you talk about your the physical process of, I'm using air quotes here, on recording, acting, when you don't have a set, a costume, other actors to bounce off of? What is it like for your performance in the booth?
Yeah, I think you go back, or at least I go back to the fact that I became an actor in my room pretending with stuffed animals, right? And so it's somewhat easy to go back to that basic, and it's kind of really nice to go back. So I had the luxury of getting to act with Dom and Billy and meet them over Zoom while they were recording. But then when I was recording, I was in a beautiful studio, but I had a reader. It wasn't them on the other side. So it was really this, like, let your imagination take you and free yourself up. And there's a way that could be challenging, but there's also a way where that can open up so much possibility.
That would have required a lot of outtakes if they were sitting there.
It's true. They're hilarious. Oh my gosh.
Now, they recorded their stuff together, correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Have you ever, I mean, I know the times are different, but like in the old days, when they used to do live radio dramas, they'd have the entire cast together, and they'd perform like a play with dialogue. Do you ever, as a performer, like, instead of going into a booth and recording your thing, do you ever wonder, like, what would it be like if we did this project all as one group and at one setting, and
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of discussion of that this weekend, especially because the cast gets to spend so much time together now. And we've all sort of been like, well, if we do a season 2, you know, like we would love to be in the room together playing off of each other, because it's so fun, and it adds a level of specificity to the characters and the relationships that sometimes it's hard to come by in a vacuum.
What do you think Rose sees in Moriarty, or Sherlock even for that matter?
So, without spoilers, I think Rose, especially with Moriarty, she's attracted to intelligence. She has to find her match, right, when it comes to that. But then I think there's just something so disarming and pure about him, especially early on in the show. Obviously, he changes. It's an origin story to a villain, if you will. But there's something so disarming, so incredibly pure about his intentions that I think she might not come across as much in her life, and that must be so refreshing and exciting to meet someone without ulterior motives for once.
Sherlock?
And in Sherlock, she doesn't get to talk to him as much in this first season, so I'd love to see how that would play out, you know, as the show goes on, because obviously that's a large relationship in the canon. I imagine it would be a more challenging relationship with this Sherlock. There would be more competition, and I think you do see that in the original. So.
Does your preparation as an actor differ? I mean, when you're home with the script, differ for something where you're just doing voice work versus where you'd be on a stage or a sound stage or surrounded by other castmates?
It does. I like to think, and I've actually feel like I've discovered this as I've started to do more voice work. I like to think that voice work is like the start of it all. It's the root of it all. Especially when I was in school, that was the first acting class they made us take, was voice, because you're nothing if you can't communicate through the subtlest instrument, right? Your voice. Everything else sort of gets added on. So I think in a way, like, this voice acting is making sure you're having as honest a performance as possible, because you can't use anything else to distract. You know, I can't use like my smile, my like arms. I have to use the only thing available to me, which is voice, which is exciting.
How do you find your voice for a character?
You know, on this one, it was just so clear. And I do think it's something to do with an accent too. When you're given a character that has an accent that's different from you, it's some sort of opportunity where, like, British Lindsay is in a way entirely different from me. Like, it changes something in my brain, and I really do think the way that you speak really does change the psyche. So I think British Lindsay, and then imagine, you know, Rose, and all of her internal stuff going on really boiled into a really interesting voice that was very natural. Sometimes it's much more work to make sure things are distinct, but on this one it was really obvious to me from the start.
Did you have the advantage of the sound effects while you were recording, or was this just read the lines?
Nope, no sound effects,
So
just
nothing
imagination.
Can you tell us a little bit about the process of developing the accent to make sure it stayed consistent through the whole process?
Yeah, it was definitely, I've played stage characters with accents where you have like a real, you know, dialect coach at every step, and that wasn't the case in this show, just because it's such a fast turnaround, and it was really only 3 days of recording. But luckily, I know, right? It is crazy. So that helped it actually stay consistent, because I was not coming back over a span of months. So that was helpful. But then also, I've been lucky enough I studied acting in school. I'm really close with my theater professor. She helped us with accents, reached out to her. I also studied abroad in England at Cambridge. I have some friends left over there that I would call them and be like, could you just like listen to me and be as mean as possible? And make sure that, like, yeah, you know, I'm not going to embarrass myself or embarrass your accent. And Dom said yesterday, which was just the nicest thing ever, he was like, it was word perfect. I couldn't find a hole. And that was, like, incredible.
Nice. So you brought up season 2, a possibility of a season 2. I've heard the other actors also in interviews reference that, oh, if we do a season 2, if we do a season 2, if we do a season 2. When they pitch this to you, or have there been discussions about a blueprint for where future seasons are going, or are you all just trying to will a season 2 into existence?
I think I can say that if you look at the reviews, if you look at the public reaction, this is a very successful work for Audible. So if I were them, I would be thinking about developing some more material. But also, you know, I emailed the writer and the director before all this. I wanted to see if they had anything that they wanted mentioned on panels and stuff, just because they did so much work and they're so cool as humans. And I got, you know, some floated ideas about, you know, if we were doing this, what we thought would be interesting, and it's really exciting what was in there.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much, Lindsay.